Welcome back to Coin Collector. Today we are going to dive deep into the story of the United Kingdom 1995 10 pence coin. At first glance this coin might look like just another everyday piece of change, something you could find at the bottom of a drawer or mixed in with older coins in a jar. But when we look closer, the 1995 10 pence coin tells us an important story about British history, about the journey of decimalisation, about the changes in coinage during the 1990s, and about how collectors today see value in something that millions of people once carried around in their pockets without a second thought. So in this long and detailed exploration we will go back in time, understand why this coin was made, what makes it unique, and why collectors still talk about it even today. To really understand the 1995 10 pence coin, we first need to look at the bigger picture of how British coinage changed in the 20th century. For centuries the United Kingdom used a system that was very different from the decimal coins we know today. Before 1971 the British monetary system was based on pounds, shillings, and pence. There were 12 pence in a shilling and 20 shillings in a pound. That meant there were 240 pence in a single pound. This system had developed over hundreds of years, and while it was familiar to the British people, it was complicated, especially as other countries around the world had already switched to simpler decimal-based systems. In the mid-20th century there was increasing pressure to modernize and simplify the British system. That moment of change came in 1971 when the United Kingdom finally adopted decimalisation. On what was known as Decimal Day, February 15th of that year, Britain officially switched to a new currency system where £1 was equal to 100 pence. It was a massive cultural and economic change, and to help the public adjust, new coins had been introduced in the years leading up to Decimal Day. Among these coins was the 10 pence coin, introduced in 1968, which at the time was made to be the same size and value as the older 2-shilling coin. Because of this, both coins circulated together for a number of years until the old pre-decimal coins were gradually withdrawn. The original 10 pence coin was quite large in size, with a diameter of almost 29.5 millimeters. For over 2 decades this large 10 pence was used across the country, but by the early 1990s people began to notice that the coin was simply too big for everyday use. It was heavy, it took up space in wallets and purses, and compared to other decimal coins it felt out of proportion. So in 1992 the Royal Mint decided to reduce the size of the 10 pence coin to a smaller and more practical version. The new reduced size 10 pence coin had a diameter of 24.5 millimeters and weighed just over 6 grams. From that moment onwards, the old larger 10 pence coins were gradually withdrawn from circulation, and the smaller version became the standard. By the time we arrive at 1995, the 10 pence coin had already been in its reduced size for 3 years. That makes the 1995 issue part of the early run of the smaller 10 pence coins. It carries with it the design that had been chosen back in 1968 but adapted to the new size. On the obverse side we see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, as designed by Raphael Maklouf. This was the third definitive portrait of the Queen used on British coins, introduced in 1985 and continuing until 1997. The Maklouf portrait shows the Queen wearing the royal diadem, and it has a certain youthful and dignified style that many collectors today recognize instantly. Surrounding the portrait are the words Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, and Defender of the Faith, written in Latin as Elizabeth II DG Reg FD. The date, 1995, appears just below the portrait. On the reverse side of the coin we find the design created by Christopher Ironside, which was used on all 10 pence coins from 1968 until the major redesign in 2008. It features a crowned lion, a traditional symbol of England, standing proudly. The word 10 pence is written around the design, making it clear and simple. This crowned lion design became one of the most familiar images of British coinage during the late 20th century. For people in the United Kingdom in 1995, this design was just part of everyday life. They used it in shops, in vending machines, and in countless small transactions. But for collectors today, the 1995 issue represents a snapshot in time, a coin from the middle of the 1990s when the reduced size 10 pence was still new. The mintage figures for the 1995 10 pence coin were substantial, as this was a general circulation coin. Millions of these coins were produced by the Royal Mint to meet the needs of the public. Because of this high mintage, the 1995 10 pence is not considered particularly rare in its regular form. You could still find examples of it in circulation for many years afterwards, though today it is becoming less common as older coins gradually fall out of use. However, rarity is not the only factor that makes a coin interesting. Even though it is not rare, the 1995 10 pence holds value as a piece of numismatic history, especially for those who focus on collecting every date in the decimal series. For a collector building a complete set of 10 pence coins, the 1995 issue is an essential part of that collection.